The change theory that I'll be talking about in this PowerPoint presentation will be the theory of planned behavior and how it applies to nurse practitioner practice. To begin to understand the theory of planned behavior, a brief introduction to its foundations must be given. Dr. Eisen wanted to form a theory that can help predict a behavior. His research led him to develop the theory of planned behavior. And this is essentially a theory that helps to predict and explain the intentions that lead to a particular behavior. The key component of this theory are people's intentions. This is because behavior is directly affected by a person's intention to do a certain behavior and their perceived behavioral control over that certain behavior. And this has been used to influence positive health behaviors and change negative health behaviors in people that are seeing their providers. When the theory of planned behavior was initially being constructed, it was initially thought that attitude directly affected and contributed towards a particular behavior. It was this assumption that eventually was shown to be incorrect and was ratified to show that the intention to do the action is the main determinant of a behavior. This can be seen from the diagram that Dr. Eisen has put together. The theory of planned behavior helps to explain actions that are affected by a person's own will and actions that are not caused by one's willful control. For example, women intending to practice safe sex through male condom use is an example of their person's own behavioral control, but the actual use of the condom is controlled by her partner. So as I stated before, intention is a very important component of this theory because intention is also affected by the interplay of the constructs of attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. The first construct of the theory of planned behavior is attitudes. These are the beliefs regarding a particular topic that affects how we think and behave. If the perception of a behavior is seen in a positive, desirable, and favorable manner, then the person will more likely engage in that particular behavior. The second construct of the theory of planned behavior are subjective norms. These norms refer to a social aspect of behavior. It's basically an interplay between a person's perception of the expectations that the important people in their life have and that person's desire to comply with those expectations. The opinions of the important people in our lives, like our family, friends, peers, or anybody else that we hold in high esteem and aim to please, affects the intention towards a particular action. The preference of these people are taken into account to form influential opinions towards an intention and behavior. A third construct of the theory of planned behavior is perceived behavioral control. It is how easy or difficult doing a certain behavior is believed to be. It's basically a person's expectation that doing a particular behavior is within their control and their abilities. And control is a spectrum with the two ends of actions that are easily done and actions that require opportunities, resources, and particular skills. This construct also influences the effects of intention on a particular behavior. Essentially, if the person perceives great control over behavior and that control is perceived as strong, the intention to accomplish that particular behavior will have a much stronger effect. A component of perceived behavioral control are control beliefs, and these are essentially the beliefs that help or hinder the behavior, and it affects the perception of difficulty to do the behavior. If providers can show the ease of starting ideal behaviors, it would probably be more likely that a patient would take up that behavior. Just from the brief overview of the theory of planned behavior, it can be seen that this theory has a lot of applicability in practice. Understanding the use of the theory of planned behavior helps to explain and predict the intentions that lead to the health behavior of interest. So providers must be able to assess and screen how each construct of this theory affects each patient. The theory of planned behavior constructs can be used as a framework for interventions towards a certain intention behavior. And essentially, while providers are screening their patients for each of these constructs, any glaring red flags that may hinder the development of the target intention behavior can be addressed individually as a patient-specific intervention in order to more so develop that target intention and behavior. Nurse practitioners need to understand that in addition to assessing the attitudes, social influences, and perceived behavioral control, that some constructs may actually predict the target intention and behavior more so than other constructs. For example, with older mothers in Iran, the intention of allowing female genital mutilation done to their daughters is most strongly predicted by attitude rather than subjective norms and perceived behavioral control. Another example would be the prescribing practices of physical activity by Mexican physicians is greatly affected by perceived behavioral control out of the three theory of planned behavior constructs. As more examples of applicability come up, I've listed a couple more that providers will be able to apply in their practice. Basically, if a person plans or aims to do a particular action, they're more likely to do so. Providers can then influence the perceived behavioral control by creating SMART goals with their patients that's within their realm of possibility. Additionally, providers can also make health suggestions to patients, especially if they are seen as figures that the patient respects. This concludes my presentation on the change theory of planned behavior. I hope that you are able to gain some insight on this theory and are able to apply some of the concepts from this presentation into your own practice.